Hello, welcome to the Real Hernando podcast, created to highlight our amazing local community and small businesses here in Hernando, Mississippi. I'm your host, Derek, and this episode is brought to you by Shelby Row Productions. Today, I'm talking with Heather and Joey Ries. They are owners of Hippie Eats. Hippie Eats is a gourmet grab-and-go restaurant. They have their fridges and freezers stocked daily with fresh, from-scratch delicacies like salads, soups, and casseroles. Italian and Mediterranean-inspired dishes, as well as their own spin on classic Southern favorites. And fresh breads and baked goods are served on Fridays and Saturdays. You can find the restaurant at 182 East Center Street, right here in Hernando. Joey, Heather, nice to have you.
Thank
you for being on the podcast. So it's funny, you already waved to the camera. You said you were nervous and shy about this.
Yep.
And you're already engaged.
Doing what I can.
So thanks for doing this. As I mentioned in that little intro, this is about the stories behind the businesses. So yes, we're going to talk about Hippie Eats, but we also want to talk about Joey and Heather. And let's start from the beginning. Where are you all from originally?
I'm from the Memphis area. Pretty much, I was born in Texas, but I lived in Memphis most of my life. And went to high school there, went to culinary school in Texas, but just moved around all over the place.
I grew up in Greenville, Mississippi. Moved here when I was 18, my senior year of high school, and I've been here since.
There's definitely a difference in accents.
Yeah, yeah, she's really country.
No,
it's my Delta boy.
But I mean, Memphis is south, but there's
Right.
definitely a difference between Memphis South and
Me.
Mississippi South. And what part of Memphis did you grow up in?
Well, Midtown mostly. I lived in Raleigh, and I lived in Nutbush, and I lived in all over the place. But Midtown is where I went to high school. That's where I lived, and once I was on my own, Midtown was always where I lived.
Yeah, I loved Midtown. I was fortunate to live there for a few years too. Yeah. I wasn't quite in Central Gardens, but I was just on the
Close
bubble.
enough.
So I was like, yeah, I'm in town.
Close enough.
Carr in Cleveland, to be exact.
Yeah.
It's a great area.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. But,
Yep.
because of schools and all that, and plus I love Hernando. That's why I eventually got here.
Well, that's what
That keeps
I
us
never
from.
would have thought I would have been a Mississippi native.
Yeah. We would love to go other places. We have some ideas, but kids got to finish here.
Yeah,
we
same
got such a
here.
good school system. So
Same here.
Yep.
Look, I'm from Maine, and if you would have told me in 2004, before I moved to Nashville, they're like, you're going to be living in Mississippi and enjoy it. I've been like, you are out of your mind.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? But here I am.
And this town of all, it's great. It really is.
It's close enough to Memphis, 20 minutes. So
I love it.
Yeah.
And we got businesses like yourself. So
Yes.
this is not about me. But so how did you guys meet? When did that happen? I mean, you're in Greenville, you're in Memphis.
True Cinderella story.
I moved here in '94. I did Ole Miss and Delta State for college and all that. But
So
we met in.
Yeah, well, I went to culinary school in Texas, moved back when I was 21, worked at the Biltmore Estate in Nashville for a little while, and then
really
kind of
cool.
established myself as a pastry chef in Memphis. And we have a lot of mutual friends. We didn't realize at the time, but we are really into, well, at the time, not now, but we're into going out and seeing live music. And we met at Newbies on Highland.
Yeah.
We had a couple of friends that were playing there. We didn't know each other at the time, and he was there with his cousin, and I was there by myself, and he threw a cigarette at me.
No, I threw a cigarette at my cousin, and he ducked, and it hit her in the dreads that she had at the time.
So friendly fire.
And I apologized the next time we saw the band. And
they played once a week, so we kind
every
of saw each
Thursday.
other.
Was it Tuesdays
quite
or
often.
Thursdays?
Well, it changed. It was Tuesdays and it was Thursdays, and
very romantic.
So this was in the 90s, you said?
No, 2003.
2003 is when we met. We started dating in 04 and got married in 05.
So Highland Strip probably looked a lot different, didn't it?
Oh, much different. My mom lives on Alexander, so we
that was the hangout.
Yeah.
Newbies was the pretty much the only
That was the
spot.
place.
Yeah.
Too Tall Todd.
Too Tall Todd, yeah. But so that's how we met. And then
It got
He
way
was
more
already-
romantic after that.
So
Past the cigarette throwing.
I was going to say no more cigarette.
more
yeah,
cigarettes.
no.
But
Or
yeah, he
was
was
there any
living
other
here.
throwing that we need to know
she
about?
throws things all the time, but
Look at his eye. No, no, but he was already living here in Hernando, and
no, I was in Memphis. Remember?
oh yeah, you were White Station
For a minute.
But shortly after that, he moved to Hernando, to
Became
the
a
house
banker.
where we lived for years. It was his grandmother's house, and she had moved in with his mom. And strangely enough, my mom's best friend lived in the same cove that he lived in.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
And so when we met and we were talking to his mom, or my mom was talking to him one night, we were all out watching the same band. And she's like, well, I live in Hernando. Where do you live? And he's like, well, I live at 87 Biloxi Cove. And she's
I'm
like,
like,
no,
you're not
I
gonna-
live at 81 Biloxi Cove. And
I'm
they
like,
literally
you don't
lived
know
across
that.
the street from each
It's
other.
like, you're not going to know the street I live on. It's a small cove.
and I mean,
There's
my
4
mom was
houses.
only here just because, long story, but she was living with their best friend.
Yeah,
and
she lived
she's-
right across the street, like from me, and it was just the weirdest.
Strange.
I mean, out of all the streets and all the cities,
Yeah.
But yeah, so-
Synergy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we started dating. I moved down here in October of 04.
her mom kept tabs on me, making
And
sure there was nobody coming over.
he shortly proposed to me right after. It was funny because I had just moved all my stuff in. And the way he proposed was kind of like, I thought he was breaking up with me. And I was like, this guy, like I literally just moved
I was like, meet me in the driveway after I picked up her
moved out of
wedding ring.
Midtown to Mississippi, and now he's going to break up with me. But he didn't. And
It was better
yeah.
than the PF Chang's plan I was going to do originally. So
But yeah, we got married in July of 05, and we have 12-year-old triplets.
Whoa.
yeah,
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
Triplets.
So we had
I didn't know that.
we had 12-year-old triplets. They were born in April of 09.
yep.
And yeah.
Then 4 months premature.
Yeah. I had them. I was in bed rest in the hospital for over 10 weeks.
She only gained 18 pounds.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah, they were 2 pounds apiece.
Yeah.
So that's why you didn't know? Were you surprised?
No, I
by
knew.
it?
We did in vitro.
Okay.
It didn't work the first time. We had some embryos frozen. The second time we had 3.
Okay. So
It was a long process. It
So-
wasn't just like, oh crap, I have triplets. Not like-
okay.
Yeah.
That was a silly question to ask. Like, you didn't know about it? Of course, you know about that, Mark. So in vitro, it's kind of common to have.
Oh, yes, and his father was a twin, so we were kind of thinking if we have multiples, great, because if you're doing all of that,
And you're paying so much money, we want to buy in bulk. We want to
buy it back.
as many
Let's do
as
this once.
we can't do this again.
Yeah,
so
spoken like a true
Right.
business owner.
Yeah. But we did. We had we got 2 boys and a girl. They were born at 2 pounds, 26 weeks, 2 pounds apiece. They
Yep.
were in the NICU for another 10 weeks. So we literally spent half of that year in Baptist Women's Hospital.
Yep. Well, 17 weeks on bed rest.
Yeah, I didn't leave the room from.
She went for a checkup.
Yeah,
and,
I was working
never
as
left.
a personal chef. That's another pretty interesting part. I worked for Mike and Debbie Rose. Debbie Rose is Mrs. Fields Cookies.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was their private chef and house manager up until I went into the hospital and never
They
left.
never left.
But yeah, I was at work one day and just felt weird. And Debbie's like, you should go to the doctor. And they wheeled me next door and I never went
17
home.
weeks later.
17
Yeah.
weeks later, I got to come back to Mississippi.
They were
What is
supposed
that,
to.
4 months?
They were supposed to be born July 26th.
They were born April 3rd. They were supposed to be born in July.
The end of July. So yeah,
They didn't come home until June.
yeah. It was. It's
We didn't
really
get
scary.
to even touch them until after Mother's Day was the first time we got to hold them.
Yep.
And they were born April 3rd.
I remember our daughter was the first one to burp.
Yep. He
Yeah.
was so excited.
I was like, look at her, just
Those little things.
just like Mama.
So ladylike.
So obviously 2 boys and a girl.
Yep.
What, are the boys like identical, or is it
No.
pretty?
They
They
are
are
3 different.
Big time.
three different people.
Completely
But
different
all
people.
teenagers.
Yep.
And they-
So they're
yes.
13.
They will be 13 April 3rd. And another funny part to the story, I have she'll be 30 April 3rd. I have a 30-year-old sister. They were born on her birthday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. and
At 26 weeks. So, I mean, it's, it was completely early, but she was having her 17th birthday party at Macaroni Grill. And we're like, don't tell her right now. I don't want to
don't
ruin
ruin
her
her
birthday
birthday.
because she's never going to have one again.
ever again.
Well, we also another interesting. So they all have kind of unique names or whatever, but we have Campbell, Mando, and Holden. But I gotta. So, my best friend from college, she was in my wedding, our wedding. His name was Jason Mandolini. Little dude, 115 pounds, called him Mando. Mando sounds like, big monster dude. So he passed away before they were born, and before we got pregnant and all that. But I asked his parents, I'm like, I'm William Joseph, I go by Joey. Can I name the first boy that comes out, as long as they make it, William Mandolini Ries, and call him Mando? And they were so excited. So we have our own Mando, so he's living on vicariously through our Mando.
Is he the big Mando?
He's going to be way big. He's as big as Jason was, so already, and he's 12.
It's the name.
Yeah,
it's the name.
And it's just funny.
Yeah.
But that gets to live on, and so we'll see how it goes after that.
So it's one thing to battle, like your sister's situation. It's one thing to have the same birthday as a newborn in the family, but 3.
Yeah.
So no luck there.
Right, and I think I have 7 to 8 Facebook friends that all have
April 3rd.
April
birthday.
3rd.
Yeah.
Some good friends of mine. Then you have just some people that are on Facebook. But it's pretty common birthday.
Yeah. Well, I think you hold the record in having that birthday within one family.
Right.
No one's gonna have that.
Yep.
So all right. So you get through that. By this time, you guys, obviously have a house together. And
so the kids are in the NICU for a few months.
Well, and at that point, I was working as a private chef for Mike and Debbie, but I also had a little side business that was called the Sugar Shack.
And that's funny because you just made that post over.
So this would be your first.
This was the first, I had worked for lots of restaurants, and I knew that eventually I would want to work for myself. So I kind of started just a little at home. I was doing cakes and things like that. And when I went, and actually I had drummed up quite a few wholesale accounts. I was baking for Otherland's Coffee Shop in Midtown and Miss Cordelia's in Harbortown, and we had our stuff in Whole Foods. But that all kind of came after. When I went into the hospital with the kids, I had all these accounts that I couldn't keep up. Mm-hmm. So my mom, that's where she came in. So my mom came in and started helping me, and she baked for all of the accounts and all the things and kept my business going.
She stepped up
while I was in the hospital.
So does she have a history in baking too?
That's kind of where the whole thing started. Her father was a chef.
Okay.
And so it really kind of started my whole love of food. She was a big foodie.
Very Italian.
Yeah, we're all just a big Italian cooking family.
Yeah.
So she kind of helped keep my little small business afloat at the time. And then had the kids. We kind of both were working on that. And then I had been telling him the whole time, I'm not going to be able to go back to work. I knew that having 3 babies, that there would be no way.
But I was a banker.
But he's like, you have to go back to work.
I'm a financial guy, so I'm like, how are we going to make this work?
And so, but then when we were kind of left with no choice, and I just immediately lost my income and didn't, it made it easier for us to be able to adapt and make those decisions.
Yeah, that was the time to hit that crossroad. Now it's time.
And you figure it out.
Once
the kids are home, she's at home.
They were at home, and I'm like, well, at least I can make money from home. Mm-hmm. And so I could just kind of bake for a little while. And then we ended up with a big kitchen downtown because I met some people like the Bells, the family that owns the Peabody and all of that. They were friends with Mike and Debbie. They had a huge kitchen downtown that was just sitting there. So they're like, hey,
nice
you need a space. So that's kind of we had a 3,000 square foot kitchen full of equipment basally handed to us. And all we had to do was pay the utilities on it.
So you had to think hard about that one.
Yeah, that was a hard decision to make. So that was when Sugar Shack turned into Ladybug Bakery.
Okay, so Ladybug started in Memphis.
Yes.
Yep.
It started as just a wholesale business, and we met this because of selling wholesale to businesses. We met Taylor Berger, who was the owner of a yogurt place called YOLO. And it was the first concept in Memphis of that kind. It was, you go in, you get your yogurt, you got a bunch of toppings, they weigh it at the end of the situation.
Put it on the scale.
So we started selling yogurt toppings, brownies, cookie dough, that sort of stuff to Taylor. And he came to us because he had seen a similar concept where a yogurt shop had a bakery in it. And he's like, hey, if I build this space out for a brick and mortar for y'all, do you guys want to, do you want to be my bakery? So that's how Ladybug went from wholesale to a brick and mortar.
Right.
And we were right at the corner of Cooper and Madison. It was a great location.
Very busy. That's where we got married.
The universe just lined up for you.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it was across the street from where we got married.
It was literally just one thing after another that kind of fell into place. And so we're like, yes, let's do this. But then it didn't really turn out like, it was more kind of like, this is YOLO and there's a redheaded stepchild, Ladybug Bakery. Like, it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. Yeah. Like, our exposure was kind of just like.
But also, I mean, he did step up, and we couldn't afford to have done what
yeah, we wouldn't have been able to do. But
he did help us get our youth started.
No, for sure. But it was just kind of not. We were thinking, we want something big, or we wanted bigger. We were already envisioning.
And your own name.
But it's a good stepping stone.
It was, yeah.
They gave you an opportunity to see what it felt like.
Right.
Yeah, and it kind of helped us realize that we can probably do this on our own.
First retail, trying to get figuring business out.
That was the big leap from there. There was a space available in Hernando, which was home, and having the kids at such a young age, because when we started the actual business, they were a year old. Mm-hmm. So it was, I got 1-year-olds.
And you need to find that picture with your mom and your sister and them.
Yeah. But so that was, it was like, there was a little place here. Cake.
It's right there.
Cakes by
Cynthia. Yeah.
And
2 doors down.
She had a bakery full of equipment, and she had injured herself and knew that she wasn't going to be able to keep going. So she was trying to sell the business, sell the place. So she didn't own the building, but we leased the equipment from her. It was a very
a good friend of ours that owned the building.
Another easy step to make, and he didn't want us to do it.
No.
He was.
What was making you reluctant?
I'm a banker. We don't do restaurant loans. That at the time, that's just
You've been on the inside of failure.
I'm a financial guy, and I'm like, okay, the rent was cheap enough. Obviously, she knows what she's doing. I know the lady that was in there, Cynthia, roughly what her sales were. And so we're like, we can make it work, and she's in Hernando.
Barely for a while.
She doesn't have to go to Memphis, and it's awesome to have her staple in our hometown.
Yeah.
Well, and really, I mean, okay, so when we decided to go full, brick and mortar, and we decided to move the business from Memphis to Hernando, my mom's husband at the time, my stepdad David, was a GM at Macaroni Grill in Memphis. He was also huge restaurant background. He'd been in the restaurant business for years.
Master baker.
Yes, he had gone to Italy, was a baker. So this was also a huge leap for him because he was making like $100,000 a year working for this huge restaurant chain. He decided to quit working for them and come work with us.
The man.
As sort of like your business manager?
He managed the business and baked our bread. So we weren't a bread, I was a cake baker, a pastry chef. I learned bread in culinary school, but it wasn't my forte.
It's a different beast, right?
So yes, it really is. I mean, there's bread bakers and there's pastry chefs. So we didn't have one, and we're like, if we're gonna open a bakery, we need to have bread. So David, he quit his job at Macaroni Grill, and we started the business together as a family.
He didn't get paid. Nobody got paid.
Really, we didn't. We paid my car note,
which was $309.
I'm like, what is that?
We made. You're like, I can pay our car note this month. It's $309.
That's what I made a month for a while. But we made it work, and it wasn't until we started selling lunch that our business really took off. Like, you can't make a living selling $2 cupcakes.
No.
You just can't.
I mean, with a profit margin of like
doing
20%.
A lot of right. I mean, she did a lot of cakes,
the way that we do things, we made everything from scratch. Everything is, so it was something that it took a minute to get Hernando used to because, our flavors and the way that we do things were a little odd. Like, I'm like, we make, coconut basil macaroons, or our cakes have curry in them, or, salted caramel,
olive bread.
It took a minute to get people to trust what we were doing, but once
Eventually
they did,
clicked,
it
yeah.
was, you know.
Well, then you bring out the lunch, and that it's going to bring a whole different customer base.
It did.
And we have like 25 seats?
We had
26?
25 seats in our original thing, and on a Friday, because we would do Cupcake Friday, we would give a cupcake away for lunch, which is really how
I
our
would have
lunch.
been there.
Yeah. On any given Friday, we would sell 150 to 200 lunches.
Lunches when you got 25 seats in the whole place,
So
and
that's just
we're doing
nonstop.
3. I wasn't working there, but I would
Yeah,
try to go in and help every now and then.
Yeah.
But three lunch turnovers, you know,
Yeah.
And
it's
so
a lot.
that all, you know, everything was great. Everything was going great. And then in 2016, my stepfather passed away unexpectedly. And after that, you know, it was the bakery. I don't think other people probably ever noticed it, but it was never the same for us. You know, my mom.
He was a big.
He was an integral part of our business from
Part
the
of the
beginning.
personality. Too,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
yes. I mean, people thought
Everybody
he was
loved
the only
David,
owner.
you know, I mean, and it was hard. And at the time, my mom worked for Delta. They were huge, you know, like European travelers. They love to travel to Europe. So she worked for Delta because they could travel for free, or fly for free anyway. And when Delta pulled out of Memphis, she had to move to Atlanta. So like about a year after we opened here in Hernando, she moved away and was gone, would come home, you know, every couple of months for a few weeks. And it was hard on them. It was hard on us. The whole thing was just a tough situation.
Yeah.
And then when he died suddenly, she had to come back full time. And it was hard on all of us. You know, it's still, even 5 years later,
6,
hard.
Yeah, almost.
He was the heart behind
And
it all, right? Yeah.
and so, you know, the business grew after that. You know, the business didn't change. We had 12 employees. We moved into a larger location down the street. Everything was going well, but it was never the same for us as a family, for Mom and I. It was hard.
Bigger space, bigger problems. You know, you got to
was
sell
what,
more
you
food.
know, it was
your
bigger
rent,
overhead.
Yes.
double.
Our
you know,
rent was $3,000 a month.
which is probably not a lot now, but then to us it was. And then
It's
Yeah.
a lot now.
Well, then-
I mean, that's
I mean,
a lot.
as a small business owner, you know, I didn't think about it, but you know, there was plenty of times where Heather worked for free for months. You know, I'm like,
I mean, Mom and I were always the last people to get paid.
yeah, you
know,
got to pay
it was-
you got to pay the bills and pay employees.
That's the entrepreneurial story,
Yeah.
right? Bootstrapping.
But
So,
it's
yeah, and I
the
mean,
trade-off
that's-
of owning your own business.
We had a huge clientele. People loved us. We were here for almost a decade. You know, almost 10 years. We baked cakes for people's weddings and then their baby showers and then their kids' first birthday. I mean, you know, we were part of everyone's
Community.
You know, it was, and so I mean that really, it helped us as a business. You know, we had a great.
You're established not
Community
only as a
following.
business but as people.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
And he had been here for a while. I mean, it was just we loved this town, but then COVID happened. Really, that's
Now by this time,
ultimately-
but we're going to get to that. By this time, are you still at the bank, or have you?
No, I left the bank in 2011. My mom had gotten cancer. My mom and dad had or we still do, have a defensive driving school. You get a speeding ticket in Mississippi. Sometimes the judge sends you to our class. Sometimes they send you to a competitor. So I left the bank.
Advanced Driving Academy.
I'm gonna plug.
I may have been to one before.
Yeah, I've been to a bunch of them before I started working there. So my job became traveling. So I made a deal with my parents had a business partner. I kind of made a deal with them. I'm not working Mondays. She's off on Mondays. That's kind of our day to do our thing. Kids are at school or daycare, whatever. So a lot of times at first, I was leaving on Tuesday with my dad, and I would come back on Thursday or Friday, you know, you go and it's just like a sales job. You have to go and see the court clerks and the judges. And now I've got lifelong friends that, you know, even if I'm, you know, down the road, if I'm not doing this anymore, I've still got people that I'm going to stay in touch with. But, you know, there for a while, I had to go and meet all these people.
That was tough.
And set up the business, and the business picked up and picked up and picked up, and
Because I'm working 12 hours a day,
So you guys
and
are-
we have, you know, three.
But once-
three
And you're both
12-year-olds.
starting new things,
Right, and
that
so
you're having to build. And then
once I
triplets.
got our business up, like I got the numbers up enough to not to pretty much pay my salary and not have to take away from anybody else in the company. And if something happened, she always had to be at work. I was always the one that, hey, I don't have to be on the road this week or something like that. So I became not the stay-at-home dad, but I was always the one that took the triplets to birthday parties. I'm hanging out with all the moms at birthday parties,
Yeah, I missed the first 10 years of their life,
I mean, she had to be at work. That's just what it was.
Yeah.
Our work didn't get done. So, yeah, I was Mr. Mom for a while, still went out of town, took care of my business, and, but yeah.
And then after David died, he stopped traveling as much, really, because at that point, both Mom and I's roles had to change quite a bit. I took on a lot of the, because he did all of the bill paying and took, all of that part of
General management
all of
background.
the admin
Yeah, we
stuff,
didn't pay attention to bank accounts.
Yeah,
He's like, we can't spend any money this week. We're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and so after, all of our roles switched, so he kind of stopped working on the road as much and was at home a lot more. And, it was just, so from basically the start of 2017 until 2020, we were just, doing what we could to get by and to,
Yeah.
I mean, business was good, but it was just different.
Just a grind.
And COVID, obviously COVID happened. And I know it's been terrible for so many people. We've lost, last year was a terrible year for our family. We lost quite a few people, not necessarily COVID, but my role changed. I didn't have to go out of town as much because you couldn't go see anybody because the buildings are closed, courthouses are closed, stuff like that. She was still working by herself at the bakery, just trying to get bills paid, but was still working so many hours, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I was at home more, just making phone calls, but it's kind of turned out to be a blessing. My role has changed with my business where I still don't have to travel that much. I go to some conferences, I stay on the phone as much as I can, but I get to spend full time up here with her. And we wouldn't have this place had not things lined up exactly the way they did.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Now.
How did we get here?
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, this is a good one.
So I can't remember the exact day, but February 2020, one day we were like normal.
Yep.
And then the next day the world shuts down.
Well,
What was that like? And again, we're not getting into the political side of
nothing,
this.
Nothing political, but seriously, so I had a memory today.
Yep.
Hey, the kids aren't going back to school until the 20th.
It was spring break.
We went on spring break, March of 2020, and they never went back.
Yeah.
And
the 15 days to stop the spread turned into 2 years.
And I don't know how other parents did it. I mean, we, unfortunately, being self-employed and able to do some,
So for those first 3 weeks of March 2020, we basically just did what we could to get by. We all of things were, up in the air, and everything was.
You went to the bakery still.
Yeah. Everything was in the first week or so we were open, but then they were like, well, you can't be open, you can be open, you blah 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 blah. All of the dynamics of everything were changing. And
like a daily basis.
We could do to-goes.
You never knew. So we were trying to do to-go stuff just for lunch, and then that was obviously not working. We, like I said, we had $3,000 a month rent. We had 12 employees. We were trying to, So then, basically, I would go in there and cook everything that we had in the building. I turned tomatoes into tomato sauce. We did, whatever we could, just trying to get rid of all the food. And then I started doing to-go orders. I would take pre-orders and go up there and just do it just so we could pay off our bills. March 20th was the day that we closed.
So that's when the mandates came down hard.
We closed, and honestly, at that point, we had been trying to sell for a while, for about 6 months or more. But we were both kind of putting the word out there. I was making jokes
joking
on Facebook, but everybody knew I was serious. I'm like, anybody want to buy a bakery? Every couple of weeks, I was
I'm over this.
Anybody want to buy a bakery? And so we had a girl come to us, and she said, hey, I heard that you guys were wanting to sell. And this was way before that. This was 6 months before March.
Yeah.
And we're like, yes, we gave her a number. She was trying to come to everything. And we kind of talked about it briefly, casually. Well, March comes around, and when we closed on March 20th, to be completely honest, I knew that we weren't going to open back up. not like it was. There was just no way.
But I mean,
for
she
us
was
to
taking all these
sustain.
pre-orders, and I mean, I remember going in, and she's pretty much doing everything by herself. And all these big casseroles, just like whatever we had in stock, just go ahead and use it. Or, she's so smart with that kind of stuff.
We sold
very
T-shirts, we
creative.
sold whatever we could because
But we
had
would have
some
100
debt.
bags with names on it, and people would pull up, and we would meet them out at the handicap ramp, and they would just roll their window down, and if they hadn't paid, we'd charge them, and most of them had prepaid, but we're seriously, so-and-so's pulling up, it'd be a whole train of cars pulling in, trying to support local businesses, selling gift cards because, we thought we were reopened. And
so we did what we could. We paid off as many of our debts as we could, and then once we closed, literally, I called Jim, our landlord, and said, come over here, we need to talk. I said, Jim, I don't think we're going to be able to make this work. Our lease wasn't up, and we had signed a 3-year lease originally. Our 3-year lease was up in September because we opened on Halloween. So to the end of September, our lease was going to be up, and I'm like, what can we do? We can't do it. And he said, pay through the end of May, and we're good. I'm like, okay, good deal. So I was in there prepping. I left about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
when the lease
By 6 p.m., he had a sign in the yard.
for lease.
For lease.
Which he's got to do. I mean, he's
I
got
get it.
Yeah.
But my phone was blowing up.
So
Nobody knew anything.
Right.
Nobody
So you're
had
still operating for 2 months.
We're still a business. And he literally people are like, what's going on? Bakery's closing. What's happening? Blah, blah, blah. And we hadn't even talked to Megan about selling at that point. And so I'm just posting like, look, yes, we're closed. We know right now that we will not be reopening in this space. We don't know what's going on beyond that, but we can't continue to do what we're doing in this space.
He
we
forced her hand.
Right. I mean,
we
it's
knew
just,
we couldn't. So, and it was, so then we called Megan and we're like, look, you're about to get the deal of your life. Like, make us an offer.
Just make an offer.
Because we really, at that point, we didn't want to have any debt, so we just wanted to be able to pay off what we had.
Well, and she also left out we have so many costs associated with it because we didn't use, they didn't use styrofoam. Everything we had was biodegradable. We paid
Right.
up.
I was on the board of Project Green Fork, so we were very big
Earth-friendly.
into sustainable products and, everything that our costs were just astronomical.
And we could have saved money
as a business, we were just, so Megan came in, we're like, hey, make us an offer. We all finally came to an agreement, and we made a big announcement, and because it was a huge business, huge
was good for
thing
both
for
sides.
the community, and we didn't want it to just close, but we also knew that it was not for us anymore, and we couldn't do it. Mom couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was just, it wasn't gonna work. So
the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
so we made the decision. Megan bought it. Unfortunately, it was a terrible time for a business to try to, we're probably the only people in the world that sold a restaurant during
made
COVID.
a little bit of money.
And it unfortunately, it didn't work out. She opened in June, and by September, she had closed.
That's an awful year to start a bakery.
It was, and she went in, she hired a bunch of employees back. They all knew what they were doing, went in and helped train, and it just, we wanted all the success for them. I mean, because Ladybugs, that's a big part of our 10 years of your life. Yeah,
there you go.
So, we wanted it to succeed and continue. Just with COVID, they made it very hard on restaurants.
It was impossible.
Restaurants were the worst people in the world. Like, if you go there, you're going to get COVID. So, and they kept changing the rules. But, and then Heather made a little bit of money and got to take a break.
Yeah, so basically that was, at that point, I was so wiped out, so burnt, I just wanted to be done. And we sold, and my whole intention was, I'm going to spend all this time at home with my family. I've missed the first 10 years of their life. I want to be home with my kids and my husband, and it's going to be great. And I was,
and now she's like, get me out of this house.
I basically did nothing for about a year, and it was awesome. But then I got bored.
She can't sit still.
I'm used to working 12 hours a day. That's just my personality.
And doing your own thing.
Yes.
Being your own boss. So you have this innate self-motivation that
Right.
can cause that
because you're like,
antsiness.
I ain't going back to work for somebody
But
else.
she's-
you know?
right.
What am I
She's
gonna
always
do?
wanted to get back into get away from baking as much and cook real food. You know, she's a real chef. She wanted to do
And
something
that's
different.
That's how this started. I
Yeah.
started really at first as before we even sold the bakery. I was bored and I was doing little cooking videos and stuff at home and posting little videos online and
With my shaky hands holding the camera.
and doing little cooking demos and my thought was like, I'll start a blog. That way I can do some recipes. I'm still cooking and enjoying what I want to do, but then I can be at home and then it quickly turned into, hey, I'm going to start cooking some food for people because people would ask me to do something and I would do it. And then,
But it wasn't cakes
it
and
clearly
cupcakes.
became, when we sold the bakery, we had a non-compete. So that was a big thing, and we still do. We have a 100-mile and 3-year non-compete from the day we sold it. So I couldn't do cakes, and I had a couple of wedding cakes lined up that I'm like, Megan, if you see me post a picture of this cake, like it was already on the books, and I'm not going to tell these people no. So, I was like, no cakes, no this, but I can do other stuff. So I was just kind of having fun and cooking, and then somebody called the health department on me.
But I mean,
Let's talk about this.
so she was doing meal prep. Some of her old customers like, well, I'd love to come get some food from you. I see your cooking demos.
Because nobody would go out to eat. So at that
Right,
time, it was nobody wanted to go to a restaurant.
So
I'm
I
like,
kind of
hey, I can,
jokingly said, hey, I'm going to break out this folding table and put it in the garage and as our little, and we had a bunch of like Walmart bags and meal prep containers.
I had like 20 to 30 customers a week. That
And there was
I was like coming by the house
There
and
was
buying
You
food.
had to start another business.
There was
There
a 2-hour pickup window, from like 3 to 5 on 2 days a week. We would have cars lined up, and they would come in and pay and pick up their meal prep, and it was. And I remember my neighbor, good guy, he came over. He's like, "Yeah, one of the neighbors across the street was wondering why you had so many cars coming by
Not
the
selling
house."
drugs or anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing. Yeah, and
No, but so that happened. We were already kind of thinking like maybe we should do something with this. I don't know. I've been in the restaurant business for a long time, so I know there are cottage laws. There are certain things you can cook out of your house, and there's certain things you can't. So
Right.
I wasn't trying to like get around the rules or anything. It was just it all happened so quickly, and it was just like
Well,
okay.
they just made donations, and you gave them food for free.
Well,
But it started friends. Hey,
Yes.
if
Oh,
you need
yeah,
something,
yeah.
and
Yes.
next thing you know, your
Next thing you
garage
know, I'm
is
like-
your storefront.
And I bought another fridge and I got all this stuff going and I'm like, okay, well, we can't do this for too long. Well, how the whole health department thing started, apparently someone had been sending photos, screenshots of the stuff that I was posting on Facebook to our health department inspector, who was my health department inspector
For a
for 10
decade,
years at
yeah.
the bakery, so she knew me. And what really set it off, I guess, we, for Christmas, right, the year before we opened here, or the December before, we had cooked. We were like, hey, let's do something nice for the police department and the fire department. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
smoked a bunch of barbecue butts. I made sauce. We made, slaw.
Everything from
took
scratch.
a bunch of buns and took it to each, and they're like, hey, will you take a picture with us? Thank you
Fire
so much.
department,
Blah,
police
blah,
department.
blah. So we posted it on Hernando Happenings. And that day I got a call from my health department
I was at
inspector.
Supercuts getting a haircut. She's like, well, we can't sell food anymore. And I'm
I was like, well,
what are we
that
gonna do?
helped make that decision for us. She straight up told me that they would take me to court. She's like, Heather, we have gotten, better than this. I've gotten so many calls. They keep sending me posts or sending me pictures of your posts. Like, she's still doing it.
Yeah, but the thing is,
She's
we-
still
So
doing it.
did you ever at one point see like a suspicious white van down the street with tinted windows?
no, we pretty.
No,
you know,
we
scoping
know.
you
We
guys
know
out.
who it was.
We know who it was. We're not going to
But,
mention it. But
yeah,
the
can't-
thing was, what we did that day was not illegal. We
No,
can
we were
cook all the food
giving
we
it
want and
away.
give it away if we want to
It
give
was just a
people.
build up from the garage.
Yeah, but they were like this particular person.
But it actually,
But hey,
honestly,
thank you for
it was-
reporting us.
Yes, it was the best thing that ever happened
Yeah.
because it lit a fire under my butt, and I was like, let's go find a space. And
How did we even find
So when
this?
did so
I knew
so
this
what,
space was here.
When did this decision happen? When let's find the space. When
December
was that?
of 2020,
So just last
2021.
So when we got reported,
2020.
I went ahead.
Yeah, December of 2020.
No, 2021 because you took a year off, right?
We opened in 2021 in April
April
on
of
April
20
9th.
Oh, so December 2020.
Yeah,
So
so it was
2020,
December.
yes.
I didn't take a whole year.
But
off, really.
so the day we got
It
reported,
felt like a year, didn't it?
I was pretty upset. And I'm like, that's fine. They reported us. We're
But
not
yeah,
doing it.
so-
So I got on. I created an email, Mississippi Eats at Gmail. I got on the Secretary of State. Created a sole proprietorship. I got all. I'm
that
like, you know
day,
what? We ain't going. We're not going
we
away.
legalized ourselves,
And
and
I'm
so
You have a customer base.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, you
You're
know
ready
what?
to go.
yeah. So I basically I knew this space was here because this was Area 51's kitchen, and at that
They're
point,
good friends of ours. So
they
Yeah.
were already like, and actually the reason I knew they were moving out of this location is because I was looking at their other location.
The one they're in now.
No.
they had another
Their-
retail
their
shop.
The one
First
that
brick and
little, that
mortar.
little strip right there.
Yeah, so I knew that space was available, and this size, that size is exactly what I was like.
We didn't want to be in a strip center. She's always
But
wanted
I
to make
also-
something her own.
So for some context, Area 51, we all know them.
Yep.
They've been on the podcast.
Yep, good people.
You know, the original location was on that little strip.
Right.
And then when they were expanding,
This was their
this
kitchen.
was like their satellite
Commissary
kitchen.
kitchen, sort of, yeah.
When they moved
Right.
downtown and they didn't have enough space down there to make all of their ice cream, this was their kitchen. So I knew, number one, that it was plumbed and ready to go as a retail kitchen space. And so I was like, hey, I want that. The rent was cheap, which I've already had 2 locations in Hernando, so I know
Well,
for
yeah.
rent to be what it is, I'm like, it's a good rent. So there was somebody else looking at the spot, and it was between me and whoever it was. I have no idea, but I was like, no, please, 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 please. And it worked out, and we got
And
it.
when you own a restaurant with ovens, you learn more about electrical stuff than you ever wanted to know, whether it's what stage 1 or whatever it's
Yeah,
called,
phase,
phase
yeah.
1 and all. You've got to make sure it's got all the.
Yeah.
And you can tell we have all the outlets that we need and stuff. But
So there's more learning curves.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I mean,
always.
this place was already ready to go. I mean, as
And
far
that was,
for,
yeah,
for
so
the most
that was, I
part.
had my eye on this spot. I wanted it, and it worked out. And we signed the lease December of 2020, and we opened April 9th of 2021.
And
That's a good chunk of
and
time.
Area
to
51
get
was
prepared and
they were supposed to be here through the end of
And it
January.
took, I
and-
mean, because I wasn't in a hurry. I was still in that mindset of like, what am I doing?
Like we could have opened in February, but
Yeah.
she kept putting it off and
I
putting
didn't
it off.
want to do it because I
It's
knew
scary.
I knew that as soon as we opened that I just kept thinking my life is going to be like it was before. I'm going to be working all the time. I'm not going to have any time to myself. But also made a huge point with this place to not let that happen again. And that's why we're closed Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I mean, I still work on Tuesdays, but you know, that gives me freedom.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to travel or do things with the kids. I mean, we went to New Orleans 6 times in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, it's our
If-
favorite place on
Yeah.
earth. And I mean, we did our fun stuff, and you know,
through learning from your experiences, you made sure that, because look, when you're your own business owner, you can make these kinds of decisions if you feel like it can manage to
Right.
make money. You learn your lesson. You're like, we need to have work-life balance.
right? And that
So
was
you can design it from the very beginning to make that template. So you
Well,
have,
with Ladybug, there was no taking off work.
No
you
boundaries.
had to
You
have
didn't set
with
any
all the
boundaries for
employees,
yourself.
the overhead. So when we went on vacation in July, we shut the bakery down for 2 weeks. When Christmas, we had to shut down for 2 weeks. That was the only time
Yeah.
she got a vacation.
And
We
Mom
had
and David would
no
travel a
income
lot to
coming
Europe,
in.
so it was, you know, we kind of had to close for 2 weeks at a time because there'd be times where they wouldn't make it back, or you know,
I mean, the flights,
so,
they
yes,
were
you never know.
flying
so,
for free, jump seats. So
And people, I mean, but you know, we did it like a European business. We closed, and that's, you know, when you're in Europe, that's what you do. You go on holiday, you close for a month, and people
Yeah.
just deal with it. You know?
yeah, and they come back.
And that was, you know, and we did have people that were like, what kind of business just closes for 2 weeks? I'm like,
this kind.
one that,
Yeah.
you know, if they don't do that, they don't have any time off. And literally,
Yeah.
we would look forward to every 6 months. It was like, okay, here we go. We got a
Yeah.
little time off, you know.
Our accountant didn't like it. He was like, if you can't afford it, you know, you need to be open.
But we
so,
did.
So December to April, are you like with the ovens already here? I can't
No.
imagine.
No, there was
Area
blank-
51 ice cream doesn't need ovens. So
Well, they
did you-
do. They cook. They
Yeah,
make
they-
the
oh,
cookies
they're
and
cookies.
stuff.
Yeah, that's
every-
right.
So
Yeah.
there was the flooring. We pretty much this was the flooring they had. When they moved out, luckily we were able to go find the exact same flooring.
Contact
We pretty
on
much
that.
pulled all of this flooring up, re-glued it down, and this was all gray cinder blocks. They did have that green that's up there.
Yeah,
some of
it was fine, but I was like,
And
nope. It was all this color, and I was
so-
not loving it.
No, I told her, I was like, it's already ready to go. It's nice and clean and looks clean. We don't have to do anything because I'm cheap. And she's like, we got to make it my own.
Well,
and
at
so, of course,
first we were just doing that one like green wall because Area 51 already had the green in here, and I was like, "Well, just paint this one wall." And then I'm like, "I don't like this gray," and I'm telling him like, "I want to paint," and oh my god, it's hard to paint over
Cinder
gray
block.
cinder
Yeah.
block. We first started, and I'm like, "Oh
So
Lord."
let's paint a picture because even for the viewers, they can't see.
Yeah.
And obviously the listeners can't see. So as you walk in, you got 2 coolers on the left and right.
Yep, we got a freezer and a refrigerator.
And then you have a counter, and there's space for cookies and brownies and
Right,
lemon
displays.
squares that I have to have.
Yes.
But then, so as you're facing the counter, the wall behind you, and then to the right is all yellow.
And it's called
right?
mac and
It's
cheese.
mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese color. Does Crayola have that Crayola?
Maybe. So
So you need
that-
to talk to them.
That green wall was plumbed for their ice cream machines.
Yeah.
So the green is behind the counter.
Yeah,
and
the
then-
green wall that's behind the
Well,
counter.
yeah, and behind the counter is actually a really cool like wallpaper that I got because,
Yeah.
and that was their green wall. That whole wall was not green
Uh.
before, but we painted it.
We were going to go with that wallpaper that's on the cooler over there, and but we
was
did
too
it.
busy.
So my awesome neighbor I was mentioning earlier,
He built the counter.
we
for us.
need a counter, and he was about to have a hip replacement, and I didn't want to bug him, but I'm like, we're trying to get in under budget. We had
But at the
extra-
time, lumber prices were so high, so everyone's like, "Don't build something."
Well,
don't
he
build
seriously
something."
came in, and I'm like, just please let us pay you to do it. He's like, I'm not going to charge you other than cost. And he comes in, he's like, how big do you want it? What do you want? And I said all this, gave him the measurements, and he's on his phone, and he goes, all right, it'd be about $193. Well, then he brought me the receipt, and it was $193.87. He went over budget 87
Yeah,
cents.
he was like almost to the penny on what it was
And
going
so,
to
I mean,
cost.
obviously, we
him.
paid him for his time and stuff, but it was just, that would
It
have
worked
been.
out perfectly.
yeah.
We had gone to all over. I mean, every thrift store and
Trying to find
freaking,
something.
like antique shop and IKEA, and I'm like, I just need something.
We were-
you
Something to put
know,
a register on.
Just
Well, and
something.
also another friend of ours that donated a couple of the coolers. One of the coolers back there, and one of the
Yes.
coolers up there that had been sitting in a warehouse for a decade, never been plugged in since then. We had to get a new plug on them.
And they
we
worked
plugged them
fine.
in. They got to temperature. I mean, good friends. You know, we got to come in. We went $4,000 over budget, I think, which was fine. But without all the help from friends of the community, they just made it so much easier. And
we really did. I mean, as soon as we opened, we had people.
we sold out of food the first day we opened. The first day we opened, we had to close the next day because we didn't have any more food.
And I had cooked.
Good
It was
problem to
just
have.
me
Yeah,
and him
I mean,
at
I'm
the
prepping,
time.
but I'm not
and
sure.
I had literally cooked for like 2 weeks to stock the fridge and the freezer, and we didn't even have that freezer at the time. We just had
yeah,
this
we had
little
that thing.
reach-in freezer that Area 51 had sold us.
Now,
And-
in April 2021, there's still mandates too, right? So there's
A
still
little, yeah.
But I mean, we were to go, so that was one thing that helped. You know?
so this was not coming. Well, I mean, you
Well,
all to go. That's
It's
right.
So, I
always,
mean, at that
and
point,
that's the one thing about this concept is
Restaurants at
you
that
don't have
point
the
had-
overhead of servers or tables or any of that
you
stuff.
could
It's
you had to
all
operate at
to
what
go.
25% capacity, and restaurants do not survive at 25% capacity or 50% capacity. They need all of their tables filled, and even if they did allow more than 25 or 50%, people just weren't going out as much to eat. But
Yeah.
we opened at the perfect time, and
It's a good concept. It really
Yeah.
is. And
Which I want to get to what's in the coolers and
Yeah.
and what y'all serve too. But again, to paint one more shot and picture, when you walk in and you're facing the cash register, you can look and you're seeing the kitchen.
yes.
And when I came in to meet you guys for our pre-interview, the first and last time I met you, Heather here was just like humming around this place.
oh yeah, no, yeah.
That's how I
and
always
there was
am.
trays of bacon with brown sugar on it. It smelled so
It was a
amazing in
good
here.
day,
It smelled good. It was lively. So I think that's cool too. You're getting like an ambience in here when you walk in. You're really truly seeing.
You can see everything getting made. People come in all the time.
You can see a
Yeah.
personality. So part of this podcast is to get to know the owners because sometimes they're not in the picture. They're not
Right.
on Facebook. You don't see them. You come here, you're going to see Heather and Joey. And I met Joey, and Joey's like, I just run the register.
Look, I'm just front of house.
I'm
man.
just here.
I put things in the coolers and ring people up and answer phones. But
And that was funny because that guy interviewed me last week or Thursday or whatever. He was like doing his thing, and I was running around doing me. And he's like, well, let's just sit down and chat for a minute. Maybe you won't be so nervous. And he's like, oh, you're probably, and then he was like, but you're probably always like this. I'm like, I'm not nervous. This is just me.
No, it's
like,
all day long.
I'm literally like,
prep list. Then you erase that prep list and start another prep list. I mean, it's all day long.
I was in here with my iPad trying to get some information and just running it through with you. And I think I did like 4 laps. It was like here, and then it was in the middle, and then we're in the back, and then back in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, so when I went on the road with our company, the driving school business, I always, when I go to a town, Natchez, Mississippi, I go see somebody, I'm like, where can I go eat that I can't get in Hernando? I want to find all the cool hole-in-walls. One thing I would get nervous going in places if you don't know whether you order at the counter, you sit down, you kind of want to know how things work. So I pride myself and our employees and her, when people come in, if we don't think they've been in, we're going to ask them if they've been in. We're going to explain everything to them, and depending on what they buy, I'm going to probably explain what to do with this too. I mean, we pride ourselves on
trying to make it easy
and
approachable.
Let's explain it right now then. Let's pretend someone's in here that's never been here before.
All right, so I call it my spiel. We've got, when you walk into your left, we got our refrigerator, the refrigerator case. We've got a paper menu. It's got everything on it that is in the refrigerator case.
And that's a daily menu.
And it's daily.
So the left one as you walk in is
The refrigerator,
fresh.
just a cold case, not a freezer.
Just cold case.
That's right.
And what would you find in that?
4 to 5 different kinds of chicken salad. We just sell it by the bulk. It's always in pounds unless we get to a smaller portion at the end of put everything in, then we'll price it accordingly. Soups, meal prep.
When you say meal prep, what does that mean?
She does a lot of salmon and a couple of vegetables.
I do basically already prepared meals, so someone can come in and all they have to do is throw it in the microwave.
Meat, rice, veggies.
Yes,
Yeah.
it makes it easy.
Pork tenderloins, one of our best
I do pork
sellers.
tenderloin meals. I do
Mahi.
4 or 5 different kinds of salmon a week. Mahi. Always, something that's about
Chicken
6 to 8
cacciatore.
ounces of a protein, and anywhere from 10 to 12 ounces of a grain, a starch, or maybe no starch. I try to do some without starches a lot, for just health conscious reasons. Now, I do not keep track of macros and all of that stuff. I don't know anything about that.
Macros.
Exactly.
Well, people come in with a lot of fad diets, I guess. And good for them, but
I thought you were talking about macaroons.
we are not going to list our calories on
when
there.
someone's
It's
like, how
not
many
necessarily
blah, blah,
health
blah,
food.
and I'm like, I have no idea.
It's good food.
Exactly, and that's what I try to tell people. I don't do keto stuff because I don't know anything about it. We literally cook everything in-house from scratch every day. No preservatives, no cans of anything. So it's not going to have high sodium or blah, 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 because it's all from scratch. So it will be better for you than, going to a fast food
there might
restaurant.
be some carbs.
Right, it's going to be
there may
butter
be a carb,
and
or there
heavy
may
cream.
be, but it's it's still just anything that's made from scratch is going to be better than, just.
Well, and then we have, so on the other side of the store, on the right side, you've got your double door freezer. That's where we have a lot of family meals, casseroles.
Pasta sauces, pastas,
soups.
meatballs, meatloafs, lasagnas, all
We
kinds
have-
of
You
just
different
throw 'em in the
casseroles.
oven.
Yeah, we had lasagna
Literally,
last night. It's
we did.
fantastic.
It is nice because we're like,
we're like,
what are we going to eat tonight? And I just came up and grabbed a lasagna and a meatball, and we're like, we're all set. An hour later. So
But we always do like our cottage pie. It's like a shepherd's pie, but it's made with ground beef instead of ground lamb. And on top of it, you have mashed potatoes. So she does big bulks of like mashed potatoes that we sell 2 pounds at a time, or just you can come in and get side items. If you already got a protein that you're cooking that night, we've got roasted broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, all
chicken
kinds of
pot
stuff.
pie is one of our most
it's my
popular
favorite.
items. Chicken and dumplings. We do.
Oh, good Lord, yeah.
Our Mississippi pot roast is
The best
probably
seller.
our best seller out of everything.
14 hours cooked overnight while we're at home sleeping.
So these are to order.
No,
No.
you come in and grab like.
Well, yeah, I know you can grab what's in here, but can you do?
Well, you can call. So we post the menu every
Well, you
day
see
on
those
our
notes on the
Facebook
wall on
page.
the green wall. Those are people
Recommendations
that say, "Hey,
or
please make
requests.
this again." So we call people when we do. You know, if you
Or,
want something that we haven't done.
if basically, if you see our menu on Wednesday morning and you're like, hey, I want a pot roast, and it's probably going to sell out by 5 o'clock, call us and we'll hold it for you.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
And if we do, it's not necessarily like a pre-order type situation, but, you can always call and hold anything that we have in the building.
And there's
And we do take order. I mean, I'll do caterings, that sort of thing,
Yep.
if I know ahead of time with enough notice, or, off-site caterings. I do a lot of private chef type situations where I go into their house and cook for them.
Yeah.
Any of that kind of stuff, but this
There's
on
no
a
set
day-to-day
menu.
is just
Yeah.
come in and
So
grab
let-
what we have.
So I kind of interrupted when you were talking
no, you're-
about the menu. So the menu is on
Changes
the website.
hourly.
It changes. Okay, hourly.
all day long as I'm marking stuff off that we sold out of.
Because
we're
we
not
cook
necessarily
from the
replacing that
time.
item. There's just more stuff going
Is
in
that
there.
why then you'll post a new picture?
Yeah,
throughout
because
the day?
we're not. If we had to do printed menus, we would have 100 menus. We can,
Right.
and so it just
we
changes.
take pictures and we post what we have when we open
That's
on
a neat
Wednesday, and then stuff sells out. We mark it out as we add new things. I'll take pictures and post them on the thing, and try to post on Hernando Happenings.
Very
if it's
seasonal.
big,
We're about to get into farmer season, farmers market. So especially when we get into that, it's going to be different items. We're going to have our staples that we always have or try to keep, but as the season changes, we're going to have whatever's fresh.
Yep.
And she will figure out something to do with
another
it.
thing in the cold case, we'll do that like little croissant kits. So it's perfect for a lunch. You can come in and it's got a croissant, a little bit of lettuce to go with it, and either like a little cup of chicken salad or pimento cheese or
With
egg
pasta salad
with some
or-
sort of side with it. So it's literally a whole lunch you can just grab.
Yep.
That's so great because there's not a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Unless you go to Kroger in the fresh area, you
Right.
get these prepared meals a little bit. But
Yeah.
But and like I said, even that stuff a lot of times will have preservatives in it
Oh,
or
absolutely.
stuff like that.
It's been packaged and shipped across the country.
Right.
Let's be real.
And we
here,
have,
you know.
the AWG, the big grocer that's opening up on 51. I don't know if you're familiar
know
with
about
that.
that.
There's a huge warehouse by 69 and 51.
It takes up,
whole-
a couple of miles down 51 across from Magnolia Lighting in Whitfield. But there are several people in town working on that project that are from
Like you.
Germany or Slovenia or whatever. And they're coming in here every
Every
day of the
day.
week and buying 2 and 3 meals.
And I'm like, how
for
did you
their-
hear about us? They're like, Facebook. I'm like,
Yeah. It's like the
And
most
instead of
organic,
them
healthiest
going,
TV
exactly,
dinner you can have.
instead
Yeah,
of
right.
them going to McDonald's or to
Yeah.
and buying a fast food, they're coming here and
Yeah.
they're getting a good prepared meal. And
I'm sold. I can't believe I haven't been here before.
well, it makes us happy that people from another country that are here for a year working they seriously come in every day we're open.
well, and I mean, especially and being in this industry, Europeans have a completely different view of food than they'll go to the market every single day. And when I worked as a private chef for the family in Memphis, I shopped every day for their food, and that's the kind of thing that around here a lot of people don't do. You go to the store and you get what's fresh over there, and that's why you cook that, because hey, that fish just came out of the ocean, or that so that. And I like that type of mentality when it comes to food. Everything should be fresh. And
When you go to Europe, I've been to Europe twice in Austria, and the food is just better. And it's not like it's because it's Austrian cuisine. It's just a cheeseburger tastes better because what we call organic
exactly
is their
They're
regular.
right.
And here, I'm not trying to belittle or anything, but so many people are into convenience and quickness and the
I'm guilty of
quick
it.
and convenient
Yeah.
things are not good for
When
you.
you have triplets,
and
sometimes
that's
you
what
gotta do that.
we
Chicken
try to.
McNuggets.
We're trying to take the and make that different and make sure that like quick and convenient can also be healthy.
Yeah.
Because we
And
have
good
people that
quality.
have stopped going to the grocery store altogether because they come in here and they buy everything they need for their family for the week.
We have a guy that comes in once a week, spends almost $300. That's what he does. That's just his thing. I know when he comes, he's going to fill that counter up with a bunch of food, some from the freezer, some from the cooler.
We've got great
And then you cross it
installation.
off and you
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like after every
We had a lady
person
spend
comes in.
$1,000 one time in here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
And we'll
a
go
lot of
through-
gift cards too. She was
But yeah, we're constantly like, after someone leaves, you know, got to walk back up there and make sure everything is, you know, make sure don't need to mark something off, or, you know, because as we're telling people, like, as it sells out, we try to keep track. But
yeah, I feel bad when we sell out of something, I haven't marked it off. They're like, it shows it's on the board. I'm like,
but yeah, then on Fridays and Saturdays, we do baked goods and bread.
Yep.
And I make Amy do that. Amy worked for me at the bakery 4 years. And when we closed the bakery and Megan bought it, she worked for Megan for a little while. And then she went to City Hall Cheesecake. And then I had to beg Kim if I could have her back. It was funny because she's a great woman. And when she knew that we were opening, and she even went to me and went to Amy and she's like, I know you're going to want to go back to work for Heather. Just give me enough notice.
Just let me know.
Amy's a very key part of our
you know, and I have her do the baked goods because I don't want to do it.
You've had enough
and
of that.
she you know, that's what she does all the baked goods for everybody on Fridays and Saturdays. I make cinnamon rolls and bread, but she does most of the rest of it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, look, thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Before we wrap this up, let's do some CTA, as we call it, call to action. So let's start with where you can find the menu online. So it's a Facebook page.
Facebook. We do have a website, MississippiEats.com.
And it's mrs.hippieeats. It's not.
Well, I mean, it's the website isn't a dot. It's just Mrs.
Well,
Hippie.
the website, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, right. So, which is a great name, by the way. It's so awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, it's on a tie-dye shirt. So
Well, there we go.
You got the hippie part, but then Mississippi Eats.
Right, and it's funny because so many people say Miss Hippie, and I'm like, you didn't take your grammar lesson seriously. It's Mrs.
But Facebook is the most up to date. She never gets on there and posts what we sold out of because she's too busy to do that. So all day long she will update whenever something new goes in the cooler.
We are on Instagram, but I'm really bad about posting on Instagram. I need to get better about that. But a lot of people, especially some of our older clientele, are like, well, I'm not on Facebook. Well, you can still go to our website and it will take you directly. You can click on it. It'll take you directly to our social media pages.
Yeah.
Even if you don't follow us on Facebook, you can still see our menu.
Yeah,
So.
I see the posts.
But like I said, if you see something you want and we have, there's a picture of it on Facebook, call us.
And
we will put your name on it and put it in the back,
Yeah.
and that way we'll have it.
We're doing monthly giveaways right now. I started last month. I tried to do a $50 gift card to our shop and then a $20 gift card to another local shop.
I saw that.
And last time I had to delete it because somebody tried to start a new page and was sending someone asking for money and give me your credit card number, you're a winner. And so
I saw that in your story. Like, sorry guys, but
You try to do something nice.
come on.
man.
Yep.
So look, this is like textbook, small business in Hernando, which is why I started this podcast and this whole thing. This is so cool, and I appreciate y'all's time for being here.
Appreciate
We enjoyed it, yeah.
So let me just wrap this up here,
Yep.
and then we'll get on our
Sounds
way.
good.
So look, to our listeners and viewers, please share this episode so more people can learn about Mississippi Eats and Joey and Heather. They'd really appreciate it. They don't know this yet, but they're going to save me a platter of those lemon squares.
You got it.
We can do that.
Visit our website, therealhernando.com. There you can find this episode in audio, video, and text format. We transcribe the whole episode. So when you go to the episode page, you can read this entire...
You might have to transcribe my dialect anyway.
And you can subscribe for free on our website. That will give you email notifications for new episodes. Also, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible, all the major platforms, and YouTube. And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Both are at The Real Hernando. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Been a pleasure.
Take care.